Hey, RetconRaider here. And today I thought we'd take a closer look at Atom RPG, a retro-styled CRPG set in the post-apocalyptic ruins of Soviet Russia. It's a game that draws clear inspiration from both Fallout and Wasteland, and while I certainly don't think they've lived up to the original Fallout titles just yet, they're definitely headed in the right direction. Now, before we get started, let me point out two things. First, this isn't a finished product. As the warning down in the bottom left corner of the screen states, this is an early access version of Atom RPG, so you can expect to see changes as the development moves forward. Second, since this is a retro RPG, it's pretty slow-paced and there's a lot of text-based dialogue. I want to keep things moving along, so don't expect me to read everything. At any rate, let's go ahead and get started. First, we need to make our character. And if you've played any of the original Fallout games, or even the more recent Wasteland game, this should look pretty familiar. Cosmetic options are pretty much non-existent, though you can choose from an assortment of oddly photorealistic character avatars. I'm actually fairly certain that these are pictures of Kickstarter backers, or developers, or friends and family of the developers, because they don't quite match up with the hand-drawn art used for a lot of the NPCs. Now that we've got that out of the way, it's time to assign our starting attribute points. There are 7 attributes in total, and you effectively have 40 points to work with. No attribute can go lower than 1, and no attribute can go higher than 10. Attributes obviously make up a big part of how your character will interact with the world around them. In my case, I want to make a character who's capable of holding his own in combat, but who also has a reasonable chance to find non-combat solutions to the game's various quest lines. I hate using any attribute as a dump stat, but in this case I'll be starting off with a lower than average luck, just so I can have some reasonably high stats in some other areas. Personally, I'd probably put the most importance on dexterity, which is why I bumped it up to an 8, but that's because it's the only attribute that influences your total number of action points, which of course is what determines how much you can do in each combat round. Beyond that, I like to prioritize intelligence and attention, because those are often tied to special attribute checks during conversations or when interacting with your surroundings. We already have some pretty decent numbers in our starting combat skills, so I'll be spending most of our starting skill points bulking up my speech and barter skills. I'll also use a few points to bulk up some utility skills like lockpicking and tinkering. I'd love to put points into pickpocketing and stealth as well, but those skills require a hefty investment if you actually want to rely on them. Okay, I think we look good. Let's get started.
'86, the year our world turned to ashes. The atomic flame, unleashed by the leaders of the East and West, like a genie from his bottle, circled the globe in a mere minutes and devoured it to the bone. Without sparing neither the innocent nor the guilty, without naming a victor to the bloody war, a nuclear blaze destroyed everything in its path, including the reasons for the conflict that sent the remnants of humanity back into the Dark Ages, back into the primeval state with no government, no technology, no culture, and no morals. 2005. 19 years have passed from the day of the Great Purge. Both once glorious empires and their loyalists now lie in ruins. However, amidst these ruins, new civilizations start to rise up to the unforgiving sun. From the rusted, radioactive derelict of the old world, new entered states both brave and wild, emerge to join the never-ending battle for the right to exist on the planet, mutilated beyond recognition by the flames of apocalypse.
The deterioration in relations between Eastern and Western blocs in 1979 has led to a full-blown Armageddon between nuclear powers in the year 1986. The war was swift, devastating, and brutal. The fact that humanity persevered was miraculous. 19 years have passed and it's 2005. Both once great empires and their allies now lie in ruins. But on top of those ruins, new civilizations are slowly emerging. This story takes place on a small patch of land in the south part of the USSR. This territory wasn't impacted by nuclear blasts as much as the more industrial parts of the country. It was mostly agricultural and didn't have a lot of army bases or nuclear shafts. But still, this place was also scarred. Even though it has some sort of centralized government, established trade routes, and even its very own TV channel, the land is plagued by famine, diseases, banditry, radiation, and, rumor has it, that some horribly mutated monsters are also roaming the wastes. You are a young member of a secret bunker society, Atom, established back in the USSR. The main mission of your organization is to find, restore, and secretly introduce old and new technologies to survivors, ultimately restoring the pre-war way of life. This is why Atom sends expeditions to the wastelands, and recently one such expedition, led by a prominent Atom member, General Morozov, stopped contacting the main base. Human resources are tight, so the standard procedure in such situations is to send 1 or 3 younger operatives to conduct an investigation. This time, you were chosen to fulfill this task. You know that General Morozov and his party went on to explore a mysterious pre-war bunker, Bunker 317. What you don't know is the exact location of this place, only that it's near a certain village called Otradnoe. Oh, and apologies for all the words and names that I'm absolutely certain I'm going to end up mispronouncing. I'll try my best, but I can't make any promises here. At any rate, here we are, young Retcon, rookie Atom operative, sitting out in the open with no guard, no weapons at hand. I'm sure this will end well. From the uneven shadows that are dancing around your campfire emerges a well-built man in his 30s, dressed in a musty khaki uniform. Well, 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 what do we have here? Hope I'm not bothering you, comrade. The man stops before you and rubs his hands, as if to warm himself, or to show you a formidable brass knuckle on his left hand. You look like a tourist, man. Nice tent, clothes in good condition without holes or tears, and so much other stuff. The man whistles, sizing up your equipment. It must be hard to carry such a weight on your shoulders. The stranger's face breaks into an ominous smile. I mean, me and my pals could help you. Well, not for free, of course, but for a very manageable price. What say you? You finally notice 4 human figures hidden in the dark of night. And if before you still had some doubts about what is transpiring, now it's becoming painfully clear. You're about to get robbed. Now, this is a fixed event, so there's not really a lot we can do here, but we might as well go down fighting. Easy there, man. Maybe you missed it in the dark, but you're looking for trouble with someone who won't be stopped by that brass knuckle of yours. The man focuses his gaze upon you, and warily moves away from the campfire. It would seem, better than any words, your sheer muscles convince the bandit that a simple intimidation is not enough here. He makes a quick gesture to his accomplices. As one, the gang of cutthroats starts moving towards you with weapons in their hands. The battle is inevitable. Defend yourself. And we're fighting. Unfortunately, as a level 1 character with no equipment, I'm hopelessly outnumbered and outclassed here. I do wish the game gave me a chance to actually fight back, but I can at least peek in this duffel bag over here to admire some of the items I don't get to keep. But I suppose it's just as well, because these items could definitely make things a little too easy during the early game. I think that's actually one of the best knives in the game. I can actually equip it right now, but I won't get a chance to use it. Take the loot, men. We have a good catch tonight. And the fight's over. Well, at least I tried. An unknown amount of time later, I wake up, curse out those thieves, and get a chance to poke around the ruins of my campsite in hopes of finding something useful. Sadly, there's not a lot here. They even got the axe in the tree stump over there, but at the very least, I have this empty canteen. That's something. I'm fairly certain that's supposed to be a reference to the iconic Vault 13 canteen that you have in both Fallout 1 and Fallout 2. But unlike those games, the canteen actually serves a practical purpose in this game, since there's a basic survival system in place. You can fill the canteen with water and then drink it at a later time to reduce your character's toxicity. There's a lot of pretty scenery here, but unfortunately there's not a whole lot we can actually interact with. This is pretty indicative of what a lot of the current maps are like. Very nice to look at, but relatively small and not a whole lot to actually do there. Ooh. And there's our very first lootable item. We'll grab that. Wait. Okay, hold on. Yes, I just confused myself. Items on the left are in my inventory, items on the right are in the container inventory. And now we can defend ourselves. The other container is locked, but fortunately we've got a halfway decent starting lockpick score, so there we go. We just cracked the lock, got a small amount of experience points, and netted ourselves some electrical tape, which we can use for bartering or for crafting. Though, as I mentioned in the overview video, there aren't a lot of crafting recipes implemented just yet. But the developers have stated that they're planning to add more as development moves forward. I think we've done pretty much everything we can do here. We can't collect that tent, and I don't think the thieves left anything else behind, so let's move on. After a whole day of wandering, you start to notice signs of inhabitants. A small field, a pasture, and finally a makeshift wooden sign with bullet holes in it. The name Otradnoe on it shows that you're on the right track. It's already nighttime when you find yourself at the entrance of a small, shabby village. Here you can restock your supplies, earn a couple of rubles, and, most importantly, learn where to find Bunker 317. Alright, we've arrived at our very first town, and this is where we can actually start deciding our own fate. Now, I could go talk to that guard, but since I've played this before, I'm gonna cheese out a little and wander over here to check out this little hidden stash. Like in many role-playing games, both classic and otherwise, they hide a few starting items near where you start, just to give you a little boost. It's not much. A single rifle bullet, a potentially addictive healing drug, which is basically this game's equivalent of stim packs, and a low-quality knife, which will be slightly more deadly than this spoon I'm currently wielding. Oh, there's also a lootable container over here with a fairly high-value item in it, but as you might guess because of the subtle visual clues, it's slightly poisonous over there, so I don't think we're quite ready for that yet. Instead, let's head over here and talk to the guard. Before you stands a strongly built man aged around 30. He is wearing a weathered military jacket and holds a large gun in his hands. On further inspection, he seems like an affable guy that would probably welcome a conversation with a random stranger. He absently chews a blade of grass, but upon seeing you, he livens up. "Hey there, comrade!" The man raises his hands as a sign of peace. His rifle continues dangling from its makeshift leather belt. Don't worry, I'm a good guy. I just hate bandits. But simple folks always get to see my good side. Name's Jan, and if it's not a secret, what's the purpose of your visit? Can you at least tell me that? I'm looking for someone. Someone who lives here? Not really. Okay then, so how may I help you out? Well, I wanted to ask you a few questions. Fine, I'll try to answer. Was there a troop of military types in your village lately? Funny you should ask. A squad of troops came through the village not long ago. Can't say if they were military though, but they had some serious looking dudes. Good weapons on them and their attitude was pretty militant. They were even wearing uniforms of sorts. Some serious guys, I tell you. Real serious. They bought some water, rested for a day near the walls, and moved on. I got to chatting with the youngest guy among them. He said they were on an expedition into the ruins, probably looking for some pre-war tech or what remains of it. God help them. They seemed normal enough. Can you point me in the direction of those ruins? Jan takes your map and, after looking at it for a while, draws a small black cross in one spot. After looking at the map again, he returns it to you. Here it is, not too far away. Thanks. Can I ask another question? And that brings us back to his default dialogue menu. I'm not planning on talking to this guy all day, but I will ask him a few basic questions. Some work can always be found. For one, our tech guy disappeared somewhere. Steblev was his surname. He loves a drink from time to time, sometimes even going on a bender, but it's not like him to be gone for so long. The last time we saw him, he was pretty drunk, bragging about becoming a millionaire real soon, and now he's just gone. Maybe he earned his million and ran off. Maybe so, but where would he get 1,000,000 rubles? Something's shady about this whole situation. Jan shrugs his shoulders and vigilantly stares into the distance before turning back to you. Anyway, a real handyman would be most welcome here nowadays. Maybe you could point me to some other jobs. Well, you might try asking around the tavern. There's a brother and a sister in charge, Vasya and Katya Radchenko. Also, some of the villagers might be looking for manual laborers. I don't know who, though. I see. Another question? And honestly, we're pretty much done talking to this guy at this point. We could ask him a few other questions, and he'd give us a bit of flavor text. He'd tell us about the village. He could tell us what NPCs to talk to if we want to purchase weapons or equipment. He can also give us a few hints about local quests, most notably one involving a group of bandits who have been raiding the village lately. Though we'll be looking into all of those a bit later. I will say, I'm actually pretty impressed with the sheer volume of dialogue a lot of these NPCs have to offer. A lot of it's just for world building, but it's still interesting to read. And I do think it's a shame that I can't read it all, but if I actually talked to every single character here and read all of their lines out loud, we'd be doing this for at least a couple of hours. There are like 20 NPCs in Otradnoe alone, and like I said at the beginning of the video, I'd kind of like to keep things moving at a halfway decent pace. So I think we're pretty much done with Jan here. It is worth noting, though, that you will want to talk to most of the NPCs you come across because they'll often have special little tidbits of information or side quests hidden inside of their dialogue. If you don't stop to talk to everyone, then you could end up missing out on rewards or optional side quests. And there's also a fairly decent amount of world building, which is nice, as well as a hefty dose of goofy pop culture references to various other post-apocalyptic franchises. In this case, Jan is telling me a rumor about an old Boy Scout camp populated by shape-shifting demons. It certainly sounds very plausible. At any rate, goodbye, Jan. If you'll excuse me, I've got some adventuring to do. Wait, feel free to come back here whenever. It can get pretty boring just standing here. Yeah, I'll be sure to do that. Okay, now we can head into Otradnoe, and... Oh, it's worth mentioning that if I were trained in pickpocketing, I could also try my luck with lifting a few items from Jan's inventory. But of course, most NPCs aren't very happy if they catch you trying to steal from them, so it's generally something you don't want to do unless you're ready to invest heavily in the pickpocket skill. Instead, we'll just help ourselves to a few basic items inside this container here. That nets us a box of nails and a bottle of water. And Jan specifically mentioned that we might be able to get some work from the local saloon, so let's try our luck with the bartender. Before you stands a plump, red-faced man, aged around 25. He is wearing a white shirt and some rather short shorts. He has a well-kept beard. In his hands there's a clean towel he uses to swat annoying flies. Upon seeing you, the man gives you a wide smile. "Ooh, a customer! Welcome to the tavern! You travelers sure keep on coming!" "Well, you're here right now, and not long ago a band of armed people came through the village. People with guns usually mean trouble around these parts, but they were pretty civil, just like real army men." Not much more to tell. They weren't chatty. Our village head wanted to speak to them about some issue, but they just left, so I don't think he struck any deal with them. They talked to our gate guard more than to anyone else. His name is Jan. If you're interested in knowing more about those guys, I suggest you speak to him. Yeah. Maybe you need a drink or some food? I would actually love to buy some items from this guy, but unfortunately we just don't have any significant trading goods at the moment. I will need to come back to him a little later though, because we're going to need some supplies. Though I might actually be able to afford a bottle of vodka while we're here. Vodka essentially doubles as this game's version of Radaway. It's your primary means of purging rads from your character's system, though it also comes with a few obvious side effects. Pounding a whole bottle of vodka may help you recover from radiation poisoning, but you'll want to be careful about when you decide to do that kind of thing. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we've got enough trade goods to offer right now, so let's go do a couple of quick odd jobs and then we can come back. Oh, wait a minute, I actually just skipped right past his optional side quest. "Listen, I remember you asking me to do something. The matter is pretty simple, small job really. What I need is for you to bring me this book I ordered. It's all the way in Krasnoznameni. Abraham, the local bookseller, has it at his store. I can't go get it myself because of all the work around the bar. But I can see that you travel a lot, so if you ever find yourself in Krasnoznameni, maybe you can pick it up for me, and on your return I'll compensate you for your trouble." Unfortunately, I don't think this optional side quest is actually finished just yet. You can go to Krasnoznameni, but you can't actually get inside. You can only talk to a few of the NPCs who are gathered outside the walls. But it certainly can't hurt to take the quest on anyway. And of course you can ask him about more details, in which case he'll explain that it's a Russian translated copy of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, which is mildly entertaining. I'm guessing that this is a basic quest where once you go pick up the book, you can either choose to keep the book for yourself and sell it off for a profit, or you can bring it back to this guy for a small reward. Obviously, it's nothing groundbreaking as far as quests go. It's basically just a fetch quest. But I suppose fetch quests are a time-honored tradition in most RPGs, especially when you're a lowly first-level character. So we'll go ahead and collect the receipt from, I've already forgotten the bartender's name. Radchenko. So we'll collect the receipt from Radchenko here, and we'll come pay him another visit once we've got enough rubles to pay for some vodka. Oh, and of course we also need to come back and ask him about jobs, but that will lead us to the bandit quest line, which we're nowhere near ready for just yet. For now, we'll keep ourselves focused on finding some more basic starting equipment. And then once we're actually ready to take on a few brigands, we'll come back and ask him about some serious work. And speaking of work, let's duck in here real quick and talk to this old man. I could also rob him blind if I had invested in the stealth skill, but since I didn't, we're going to have to leave all of this precious loot just lying around. An old man in a skullcap does what he always does. He opens and closes his toothless mouth, whistling some forgotten melody. Upon seeing you, he squints his eyes at you. "Hello there, Shunny. You want to speak about something?" "Just getting to know the locals." "What? Oh, the locals. Well, here I am, a local through and through. Heh. Did they send you to help me out, Shunny?" "Not really. What did you want?" Ashamed to ask, sonny. I have this little corn patch at the back of my house. I'd pick the corn myself, but I'm just too old now. My back is killing me. What harvest could I pick like that? The old man gives out a sad sigh. It must be very hard for him to ask someone for help. Fine, old man. I'm gonna do it. See you later. And we've just been guilted into doing a quest. Though I did have the option of refusing it if I really didn't want to go collect some corn. But as far as quests go, this one's about as simple as they come. It's barely even a fetch quest, really. Oh, wait a minute. There's a free shovel over here. I've played this game for 8 hours, and I don't think I ever actually noticed that shovel there. And our epic quest is complete. We have collected 5 ears of legendary corn, and we've also found a bonus shovel, which is a pleasant surprise. Now let's get back to our quest giver and see what our reward might be. Okay, we've already read this. I picked your corn, old man. Oh, a real worker you are. You really helped out an old man. The old guy feels his pockets, looks his house over, and finally turns to you with despair in his eyes. It's just that I don't have any money to pay you. What a shame. I was a hunter back before, you know, and always had the monies. But now, what a shame. Shame on you, old man. Acted like a true exploiter. Maybe you could look around some more, old man. Every little bit helps. The old man does not listen to you. Finally, a smile comes to his face and he slaps his forehead. What an old fool I am, Shunny. I was a hunter, wasn't I? Said it myself and didn't get it. Wait here, Shunny. The old man gets on his knees and starts searching under his rickety bed. Finally, he pulls out his old shotgun. With a smile, he hands it to you. Here, I don't really need it no more, just to scare away the crows, I suppose, but you might find it useful, so here you go. Wow, thanks a lot, old man, it's just what I needed. You take the gun out of the old man's hand and look it over with interest. It's an old hunting carbine. On its wooden stock is an engraving, a heart pierced by an arrow. And now we've got our first gun. Though it is worth noting that they called it a shotgun in the descriptive text, and what he actually gave me was an old hunting rifle. But as far as translation errors go, it's pretty harmless. But unfortunately, we didn't really build a character who's well suited to use rifles. We only have 23 points in our large gun skill, which, in this game, is represented by most long arms like rifles and shotguns. So I will honor the old man's gift by taking it to the nearest pawn shop and... Good day, for your perusal, guns of all kinds. Pre-war, hot off the workbench. Rifles, shotguns, and pistols from the best gunsmiths of the wastes. All my weapons are of the highest quality. If it explodes in your hands, your money back, guaranteed. Hey, how about a discount since I'm new in town? Well, fine. Just because I value you as a customer, I can give you a hefty 5% off everything. Can't beat that, right? Yeah, it's better than nothing. Maybe you'd like to make a purchase now. The stock is good, and so are the prices. Alright, let's take a look. Hopefully we should be able to get enough rubles here to pay for what we need. In particular, I'd like to get that quality knife, I'd like to get this duffel bag here, and I'd like to have enough left over to pick up a bottle of vodka if I can. Though, unfortunately, it actually doesn't look like I can evenly barter here. He doesn't have enough rubles to cover the cost of even the rifle, let alone the rifle and this fine aluminum spoon. I might be able to find something to make up the difference here. Unfortunately, I'm not really seeing anything else that I really want. Not anything that's cheap enough to leave me with enough rubles to buy a bottle of vodka, anyway. I guess I could load up on a few bullets, but... You know what, I'll try taking the rifle straight to the bartender instead. That way I can at least make sure I end up with a bottle of vodka. Hello, no time for small talk. Can I please see your inventory? There we go. Now let's get the old hunting rifle over here, and, oh, he's actually offering to pay me more for it than the trader was. Well, that's a bonus. I'll go ahead and grab this flat cap here. That'll grant me +3 to my speech skill. And we'll grab 1 bottle of pre-war vodka. And then we'll fill out the rest with a handful of rubles. And I think that looks good. Oh, let's get rid of the spoon, too, while we're at it. I'm not sure if there's actually any use for the spoon. And let's get our new cap equipped. That'll bump us up to a nice respectable 45 in speechcraft. And now let's head out of town to take care of another quick side quest. Now we will need to be at least a little careful out here. There are a few enemies that are lurking around outside the town's walls. Like that giant spider there. We'll just skirt along the edge of the map here and we'll head past this fisherman. We'll come back to him in just a moment. But first, we want to visit this small hidden stash here. That gives us another fistful of rubles, a pack of coffee, and a pack of tea. We'll take it all. You always have to keep your eye out in this game. It's pretty old school in that there are interactive items hidden all over the place, so it can be easy to miss them. Before you stands a tall, gray-haired man in a scruffy-looking sweater. He looks at you suspiciously and without blinking. There's a knife in his hand that's pointing in your general direction. From the look of the fishing poles scattered on the shore, he was fishing before you arrived. "Who are you? I don't know you. Get away from me." "What are you staring at? I'm not a shop window. Move along if you don't want to be stabbed." The man takes up a fighting stance with his knife in front of his body. He studies your every movement without blinking. Seems he is ready for you to attack at any moment. Well, I could pick a fight with him, but... Don't get so nervous, I just wanted to talk. The man has a short inner struggle before he finally puts down the knife and squints his eyes at you. Fine, let's chat. How's the fishing? Caught something recently? Somewhat. This pond is pretty small, but there's plenty of fish in there. The problem is that, although dumb, even those critters learn over time, and now they aren't biting as fast as they did before. Can I fish? You want to fish, eh? Well, maybe you can, it's just you don't really know what the local fish like. They're real gourmets in this part. No worms for them. They like bait made from all of the critters around, the giant ants, wasps, and spiders. Well, there's plenty of those around. The fisherman gives you a crooked smile and spits through his teeth. Yep, there's many of those mutants and freaks in these parts, but how would you know which of their limbs and organs are fit to make bait? I'd wager you don't know, am I right? So here's what we're gonna do. Go to the nearest pub and get me something strong. For that, I will teach you the basics of bait harvesting. Just remember, I don't want anything they mix themselves. Normal pre-war alcohol only. And the harder, the better. Hey, what a coincidence. I have a bottle of some good stuff right here. Look, I want some pre-war vodka. I don't care if it's cheap or expensive. It can even be stronger than vodka, but it's gotta be pre-war made. You hand the bottle to the fisherman. He quickly takes it from you, quickly checks the label out, and puts the bottle into his bag. Hey, that's some good vodka you got. Stuff made for importing, you know? Now it's gonna keep me company, and help me lose some radiation if I get unlucky and catch the sickness. Now that you fulfilled your side of the deal, it's my turn. Listen carefully and remember. The fisherman explains to you how to field dress the bodies of giant ants, wasps, and spiders. Every critter has its own nuances, but all can be dismembered even without a knife. Even a sharp stone would do. You also learn that the favorite foods of the local fishes are ant spit glands, wasp legs, and spider brains. The world is surely a marvelous place. Also, that stuff can be sold. The wastes are home to many fools that like hanging wasp legs in their shacks to show off their hunting skills. It's particularly funny because even common wasps are much more dangerous than those genetic mistakes. But who cares? Any item that costs money is worth selling, right? Wow, thanks for all the knowledge. I better go and think on what I learned here. And with that fairly mundane quest out of the way, we have earned our first distinction. In this case, we've picked up Entomologist, which now allows us to harvest special parts after killing insect-based enemies. Speaking of which, there's a giant wasp right over there, so let's pick a fight with it. And now we're finally getting a chance to check out the game's turn-based combat system. It's pretty straightforward, like I said in the overview. It's based heavily on the system featured in games like Fallout. The strategies are pretty simple. For the most part, you want to maneuver to try to prevent your opponent from attacking you, avoid getting surrounded, and focus on taking down your enemies one at a time. Fortunately, these are all pretty basic enemies, so we shouldn't have any trouble taking them out. And there we go. That nets us 75 experience points and a few fairly gross trading items. It also puts us about halfway to level 2. There's a mushroom sitting over here, so let's grab that as well. In fact, as long as we're out here, let's go ahead and pick a few more fights. We might as well see if we can hit level 2 and find a few more saleable items. Oh, and since I've never had a shovel before, let's try digging up these graves here. I'm not actually sure if there are negative consequences for doing this, so I've tapped the quick save button real quick, just in case. But let's get over here and start digging. A compact cassette and some wires. The wires are useful for crafting, but I'm pretty sure the cassette is just vendor trash. Well, we didn't pick up any new distinctions, so let's keep digging, I guess. Okay, no luck that time. Let's dig up the third grave. Nothing again. Well, I guess this was mostly a waste of time. Oh, I spoke too soon. There's an empty bottle. Oh, and even better, this time we found a fork and a box of nails. Alright, and a small handful of rubles. I guess that's useful. Definitely nothing to write home about, but beggars can't be choosers. There's another mushroom over there and a few more simple enemies. So let's approach them carefully and take them on one at a time if possible. Here comes the spider. We'll switch off to our knife and move in to kill it. There we go. And it looks like I was a bit too close. The other enemies are approaching now. So we'll move up to meet that wasp. A little too... Actually, we're just close enough. We'll move in and stab it twice. Uh-oh, but it actually survived. And we just took 2 points of damage. I think we'll be okay. There we go. That takes care of the wasp. Now we'll back off. And now we'll move back in and take out the spider as well. There we go. That nets us another 75 experience points and a few more gross trading goods. And, that mushroom over there too. Let's grab that. I don't think there's anything else over here, but let's take a quick look. Unfortunately, there's no hotkey that you can push to highlight interactive objects. Oh, hey, there's another mushroom and a giant ant, so let's tread carefully here. I think the giant ants are slightly tougher than the spiders and the wasps, but let's try our luck here. Oh, well, that was easy. That nets us an ant salivary gland. Delightful. And we can grab that mushroom as well. There's that toxic field. Again, I'd love to rummage through that box over there, but I'd rather not deal with being poisoned right now. Actually, you know what? Let's go back. Now that we have a few empty bottles, we can actually afford to be poisoned. And we're going to want to make this quick. We'll rush in there, crack open that box, grab the contents, and rush back out. That nets us a very valuable bottle of antidote, but yeah, we're poisoned now. There are a lot of things in the game that will build up your character's toxin meter, and you can reduce your toxin level by taking things like antidotes or by just drinking plain old water, as long as it's purified water. Okay, well that reduced our toxin level, but apparently not enough. We're still poisoned. I guess we're only mildly poisoned because we're not actually suffering any attribute penalties just yet, but fortunately there's a water tower back in town, so let's go fill up all these empty bottles and then we should be able to flush the rest of these toxins out of our system. It's best to take care of it now before we do start suffering side effects. There's the water tower. Unfortunately, we will need to tinker with it a little bit before we can actually get our water. You turn the handle, but the sink doesn't work. Maybe you need to fix the pump first. Thank you, mysterious voice. Oh, and we'll grab these empty bottles while we're at it. There's also a roll of toilet paper over here, so I will take that as well. This water pump is old and rusty, but obviously still used. The engine is not working. It must be fixed. Well, fortunately, I've got a pretty decent technology score of 40%, so let's give it a shot. You tried to fix the engine, but to no avail. Try again. You fixed the engine. Now it's time to turn it on. There we go. That nets us a fat 107 experience points, which puts us pretty close to level 2. And more importantly, it means I can start filling all these containers. And that did it. I'm no longer poisoned, but if you look down at the bottom right corner, you can see that I'm hungry now. So we'll take care of that once I'm done filling all these bottles. Now, unless you're playing a really strong character, you're not actually going to want to carry around a bunch of bottles full of water. But in this case, it's important to know that a bottle full of water is slightly more valuable than a bottle full of nothing. So I'm mostly just doing this to give myself a little more bargaining power next time I swing by the shop. And that takes care of that. Oh, it's also worth noting that the containers have different weights. I generally sell off all of my glass bottles, but I hold on to the plastic bottles because they're a little lighter. Though, if you plan on crafting certain items, such as Molotov cocktails, you'll want to hold on to the glass bottles. Now let's see what we can do about rounding up some food. Fortunately, there are a few options here. The easiest option is to probably head back into town and trade for some food, but I'd rather save my rubles for a backpack and a better knife. Oh, and we also could have obviously kept that corn that we picked for the old man. That would have given us some early food, but it obviously would have also cost us the rifle, so not a great idea. Fortunately, we do have a few other options here. Right over there near that mushroom, you can see what we're looking for. I could take a targeted shot, but in this particular case it's really unnecessary. We'll just stab this thing until it drops. There we go. Then we'll slice off its legs and start heading for our real target, this rat over here. Oh, there's a second rat too. Okay, well, we'll let the first rat come to us and take it down real quick. Now let's move up to meet the second rat. And there we go. Not only did that net us a new level, It also gave us our first hunks of raw meat. Oh, and it's important to note that you can't actually harvest meat from animals unless you have a knife in your inventory. So even if you're playing a character who focuses on guns or unarmed combat, you'll still want to carry a knife around for utility purposes. Let's just take a quick peek around to see if there's anything else of interest here. It looks pretty clear. And now let's head into this little campsite here. This guy here is obviously a shepherd, and if I really wanted to, I could murder him and slaughter his sheep for an additional source of meat. But instead, I'll just wander into his little shack and steal all his empty bottles and a few cans of meat. Unfortunately, I can only actually take one can of meat, even though we can clearly see that he's got like 20 more in these boxes. And there's a few more plastic bottles here I can abscond with, as well as a photo of some old Soviet hero. I think that's everything. Let's give the camp one more quick look just to make sure I'm not missing anything. And now let's have a quick chat with the shepherd. Before you stands an old man sporting a mustache. He's wearing a foreign tracksuit. There's a flat cap on over his graying hair, and hanging around his neck are some old spectacles. He welcomes you with a firm handshake. "Hey there, hope the monsters didn't bite you on the way here." "Thanks, I had to fight a few though." "See, it's dangerous to walk around here alone. There are monsters all around the village. This place is practically under siege. One thing is nice, they don't attack on their own usually, or I'd have a hell of a time cooped up in here. All those spiders, ants, rats, it's like they're symbiotic. A few more years and they'll form a political party." The man lets out a mirthless laugh and eyes his surroundings as if looking for something. He then exhales and turns his head back towards you. "But anyway, see? I have this fire going. If you have any canned food or tea, you're graciously invited to cook it here. Use my pot if you will, or just sit down and get yourself warm. And speaking of relaxation, if you by any chance have a pair of dice, we might sit down and play for a while. I seem to have lost my own pair some time ago. I'm not much of a gambling man, but I think it's a fun way to spend time." Yeah, considering I have a 9% in gambling, I will pass. However, I will ask you about rumors. I heard of some adventuring type that buried a stash somewhere in the area. After that, I think he got shot or mauled by wolves, and the stash is still there. I'd go and look for it, but I'm too lazy. So if you have a good shovel, you're welcome to try your luck searching. I won't mind. I didn't think much of that rumor the first time I read it, but now that I actually have a shovel, I'm going to have to keep an eye out for any interactive objects that look like I can dig them up. For now, however, let's get ourselves fed. I could make coffee or tea, that would give me a temporary attribute buff, but I don't really need that right now, so let's move on to the next menu. And I could either warm up a can of meat or I can roast some raw meat. The canned meat makes a good emergency food supply when you're on the road, but raw meat you can only eat when you're at a fire like this, so we'll go with that for now. Well, it's no secret that roasted meat tastes much better than the canned one, not to mention raw meat. You lick your fingers after the meal, feeling that your life forces are returning to you. You also gain a little bit of that culinary experience. And with that, you'll notice down on the bottom left corner here, I gained a few experience points for cooking my own meal, and I also recovered my 2 missing hit points. That puts us back in tip-top shape, and we've also got these skill points to spend on our level up. But for now, I think we've come to a pretty good stopping point. I'll go ahead and create a hard save, and we'll pick up here next time. But for now, hopefully this has given you a good idea of what the current version of Atom RPG has to offer. Like I said, they've still got a ways to go before they can meet the same level of depth offered by the original Fallout game that they're so clearly trying to emulate. But like I said in the overview, I really do think that they're off to a good start. At any rate, this is RetconRaider, signing off. Thanks for watching. Oh, and remember, although I do love playing Atom RPG, you can find out more about the game by visiting the official website, the crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter, or the store page on Steam. Links are in the description.